So sitting here in beautiful Valkenburg, of all places. I've been to quite a lot of places in Holland talking about this stuff, but never in my hometown or the region I come from. So it's a little special.
It's a surprise. Huh?
Yeah, it's a big surprise and a nice surprise. So Rananda, thank you for having me. When I entered the room, I saw, "Please leave your ego outside."
Isn't that a great idea?
That sounds great, but how do I know if I left my ego outside or I'm just talking from ego right now?
You'll find out through this conversation.
Yeah. And is that something you can recognize immediately, or
Yes.
mind stuff versus heart stuff, or?
It's very easy to tell when a person starts talking either about himself or actually anything. Everything that you say demonstrates what you believe. And what you believe either comes from the ego or it comes from spirit. So it's actually pretty easy.
And is there like a combination that is possible, or is it always one or the other?
No, you can flip back and forth. Most insane people do.
But not at the same time. I'm not talking
No, you
from...
can't do it at the same time.
So I'm not speaking from spirit and ego.
At the same time.
No.
No, it's impossible.
And a simple example would be, I was talking like, oh, I interviewed this one and this big teacher, and
That'd be ego.
that'd be ego.
Yeah.
And spirit, I would tell you that I bought A Course in Miracles, the book about...
No, that could be ego too.
Okay. Well, let's try if I can put it from spirit. I bought that book like 1.5 years ago, and every time I look at it, it scares me. Why
That
is
would be ego, fear.
Why is that? That book gives me the creeps, and not the creeps in a sense of I think it's bad, but I think when I'm finished reading this book, no more excuses.
That's right. That's why.
So some part of me thinks, wow, we should...
That's spirit.
The spirit is that part that says...
Hallelujah, we've got the answer now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And ego tells me to get out of the room.
Yeah, be afraid of this. This is going to cost us something. There's loss involved in this. That would be the ego.
And what will I lose when I finish reading this book?
The ego. But it's not about reading the book, it's about being what you were or are, and that's what the book is telling you. It's reminding you of who you really are.
Mm-hmm.
And if you accept that truth, then the false self that you've made to replace that will disappear.
So I don't have to finish the book for that process.
No, you can do it right now if you want.
I don't need the book at all.
No, if you're willing to do it completely right now. And if you're not willing to do that, then the book would be helpful.
And how do I know if I'm willing to?
Being awake is not like being asleep. And you'll know the difference. I mean, it is so obvious you can't miss it.
Mm-hmm. So when I entered this beautiful place you have here, I felt a lot of love in the air. I told your wife, love is in the air over here. What's that, what I feel when I get in here?
I think you got it.
I know what this is all about here.
Yeah,
love.
It's all about love. There's an old saying, and I'm sure you're familiar with it. It goes, God is love. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever God creates, he uses himself to create. So whatever he creates must be love. So if God created you, then you must be love. That's all that A Course in Miracles wants people to remember, that they are what love is, and they can stop pretending that there's something else that you can do that would make you happy other than being love. So we try to practice that here. Everyone is undergoing their transformation here, and they're succeeding to whatever degree they're succeeding in being loving and letting go of their beliefs that bring them pain and suffering. So hopefully people can come into this place and recognize that those who come here are sincere about their transformation. And therefore there is a frequency that will be helpful to anybody else that has that same desire, or who has not had that desire and is suffering not having that desire. And then it becomes inspiration.
Is that a contagious thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it maybe the
It's
same?
lethal.
Lethal.
Yeah, to the ego.
Kills the ego.
Well, it's lethal to the ego.
Okay. So, is that the same thing some people experience when they go to like a big dance festival? Sometimes it's called the Love Parade, the Love Festival.
I don't know. I've never been to one.
But it's not the same atmosphere that you get out of joining each other in one experience, like music or theater. Or
I don't know. I've never been to one.
never been to any. Yeah,
No.
you've been to a movie or.
Yeah. But
but-
usually they have the lights off and you don't know that there's anybody else there.
So is love about the other one, or is it about me?
It's always about you. And only you. It's never about somebody else.
Because.
Because there is only one of us.
So I'm talking to myself right now.
That's the truth. But it's a self that you might not remember or might not recognize. And so in the darkness, or as Buddha would say, in ignorance, you think differently than the truth. But just because you think differently doesn't make it the truth. It just makes it what you get to experience.
So even if I'm the biggest egoist on the planet, I'm still you.
That's true. And I'm changing my mind about that so that we're not going to have the biggest egotist on the planet any longer.
Okay.
We're not going to allow that any longer.
No.
We're changing our mind about that. And that's where the love comes in.
So is ego the biggest disease on the planet?
It's probably the only disease. Everything else looks and is named whatever way you want to, but it comes from the same source.
But trying to get rid of ego makes it harder maybe, or even like more existing?
Yeah, there's an old New Age saying, what you
resist persists.
Resist persists, and I think that's true. So if you just focus on rejecting thoughts within your own mind that are less than loving, and then accept a replacement that is loving, then you're not fighting with anything. You're just making a choice.
Selecting the
Yes,
right ones.
That's right.
Hey, you once said about the mind, it's a kind of receiver. So we don't produce thoughts ourselves. We receive thoughts.
Well, it depends on who you say or think we is.
Yeah,
I'm saying that mind is it's like a muscle that spirit uses, and spirit puts thoughts into the mind, and then the mind has the ability to choose what it wants to manifest. And then you also have the source that people call ego, or the Christians call Satan, or whatever other name you want to come up with. And there's a thought system in association with that also. And they are completely true unto themselves. Whole. They are true or whole unto themselves. In other words, spirit doesn't share some of the ego ideas, and ego doesn't share any of the spirit ideas. They're completely whole unto themselves. But mind is, in a certain sense, separate from that, which is kind of difficult to say that because it's not really separate, but it functions separately. That's how it receives two different sources of thought.
Can this mind be trained like a wild horse? Or?
That's what A Course in Miracles is all about, training the mind. It's a mind training program. And of course in India you have yoga, and they have mind training programs where you train your mind to overcome the not only the desires of the body, but the ideas of the weaknesses in association with it, whether it be sickness or just energy. It's all about training the mind and getting it aligned once again with the will of singularity.
And is there a certain age you have to reach before you can start training this mind, or?
No, there's no there's no age. We have a 2-year-old boy who runs around here, and he's training these people already.
Yeah. He's the biggest teacher around.
Well, he's one of them.
One
anyway.
of them, yeah. Okay. Can you tell me a little about your path? How you went about on this journey, or this people you met?
I don't actually have too much to say about that. My journey was, actually it's not important, but it's really not any different than anybody else who makes the journey from not knowing to knowing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the journey. I didn't know, something happened, now I know. And how it looked is, it's not important because the not knowing is not important.
Mm-hmm.
There's no importance to it. There's no value to it. So to talk about it as if it has some value as to causing, the awakening, it actually has nothing to do with your awakening.
No.
It has everything to do with the belief that you're not awake. So to me, it doesn't really have any significance. I don't even think about where I came from and what I was involved in, other than whatever lessons were part of the awakening, that's still with me.
Mm-hmm. What kind of lessons were they?
Love is the answer, that kind of a lesson.
And anybody in particular who told you that? Or is that something you picked up yourself?
Well, actually, when you wake up, you recognize that everybody's actually telling you that. Even the ignorant ones and the ones who are asleep. They're actually telling you that, but they don't realize they're telling you that. But when you know who they are, you know that's what they're telling you. And they're telling you that through their pain and their suffering. They're telling you how much they want love and how much they want to be aware of love and how much they want to share that love. But they're telling you they're having great difficulty in that because of all the pain and the suffering that they're having. So you begin to see things differently.
So the biggest jerk I meet on a crossroad who gets out of his car and starts yelling at me, he only tells me he needs a hug? Or
Absolutely. I don't know if I'd want to hug him. He might slug you one. I don't know. But he's certainly saying that. He's certainly indicating to you that he hasn't experienced as much love as he really wants to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he finds himself in that kind of a state of mind.
But when I think about love, and what people and my parents taught me, that love was something you got to earn. Or love is something that can be taken away from you when you're bad. Or that's not the kind of love you're talking about.
No, not at all.
It's unconditional love, or...
No, it's just love. I don't believe there's such a thing as unconditional or conditional love. I think that's part of the illusion. I think love is all there is.
So, yeah. And could you replace that word love with God?
God is love.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is his son.
Jesus.
You.
Me.
Yeah.
Son of God.
That's right.
Okay. But there's
How does that one fit?
Yeah, it feels good.
Okay.
But there's a lot of people on planet Earth who think there's only one Son of God.
There is only one Son of God.
But he's sitting here as apparently
multiple.
two. Multiple.
That's right. And that's the illusion.
Yeah.
All of the masters, everyone who's been on the planet here teaching, have always called this world that you perceive is an illusion.
Mm-hmm.
And where's the illusion happening?
In me.
It's got to be happening somewhere, right? And you're connected with it, so it must be happening somewhere where you're connected to it. That's where your mind is. Your mind is not in your body. Your body's a part of the illusion, and it's in the mind.
Mm-hmm. So only one mind.
Yes. One sun, one mind, one creation, one creator. One's a good number.
And sometimes they call it one without a second. Why do they say that?
Because a second would be duality.
Is your teaching or the stuff you talk about, could you place it in like the box of non-duality, or is that a
pure
bigger...
non-duality?
Pure. So that implies that there's also not pure non-duality.
Well, there are those who have looked at the idea of non-duality and still exists, that what you experience through your senses, through your perception, still has a sense of reality to it.
Mm-hmm.
So they call that non-duality, meaning, you know, that it's not true, and yet they are true. And pure non-duality is no, even the you that you think you are has no reality to it. And that's what you awaken to. That's what the real awakening is.
Can you say that once more? The real awakening?
No, I can never say things more than once.
Yeah, we should rewind. But sometimes in non-duality people say it's both real and unreal. You don't agree with that?
Not at all. The way I would understand somebody saying that to me would be that if they're going to call something real here, it's like if somebody took a hammer and hit you in the arm, it would break, most likely. So is that real? Well, no, but that kind of stuff happens in an illusion. Can you accept that things happen in an illusion without it being reality? Or must you insist that because you experience it, it's real? And this is where the mind gets healed. If you can accept that things like that happen in an illusion, then you don't have to accept it as reality. You can say, I'm experiencing an illusion, rather than trying to make it real for you so that you can feel comfortable continuing to do the things that you do in an illusion, rather than healing your mind about the illusion and experiencing reality. So, to me, no, an illusion is an illusion. There's only one reality. There's not more than one.
And that one reality, does it have, I'm looking for the right English word, does it have like things you can say about it?
Not much.
Not much, but
you can say it's love. You can say reality is singular. You can say it's eternal. You can say it's infinite. You can say it's not made up of parts. There are a few things that you can say about it, but not really much, not compared to what you say about the illusion. You have lots of things to say about the illusion, but you don't have a lot to say about reality. You can say light and love.
Satchitananda.
Satchitananda.
So, all those stories about the illusion, if it has a purpose, is it the purpose to awaken to it?
Yes. What other purpose would you like to give stories?
Entertainment?
Yeah, but then you're replacing reality with entertainment. What does that tell you about a person who'd be willing to do that?
Oh, he's looking for entertainment?
Yeah, but why would he be looking for entertainment when he has all of reality? He could create anything he wants, and yet now he has entertainment until he dies. So he has to experience pain and suffering until he dies, and he believes he can't get out of it, nor does he believe he can create. So look what you're giving up for your entertainment. Now really, come on. Entertainment in one hand, and reality, creating, God, excitement, only love, the exotic on the other hand. Now which one do you want? Entertainment or?
It looks like an obvious choice, but...
Yeah, it is. It is obvious. If you look at it, it will be obvious. I believe that people don't look at it, and that's why it's not obvious.
Is there a why to why people don't look at it?
Yeah, because they're insane.
But are they made insane, or are they just plain insane?
It's a decision.
To be insane?
Each person makes a decision, yeah.
But it doesn't look like the easy way out.
It's not. There is no out there.
No out there in the world. Nowhere to hide.
No, not only that. How can wholeness remain whole if a part is missing?
And that part would be?
You. Or anybody who thinks that they're not a part of singularity. That's why it's an illusion.
And we try to fill that up with short-time love, relationships, eating, entertainment, drugs.
If you listen to Buddha, Buddha said, all pain and suffering comes from your desires. So all of your desires are what you're doing in order to not surrender or say, okay, I've had enough. and, you know, go back to being a creator.
But it sounds so simple.
Do you know why?
I know why.
Yeah, do you know why?
I think because it's the truth.
Because it is. Yeah. So people try to complicate the truth so they can understand it. And then they say they don't understand it. And they don't because they complicate it.
So all this spiritual searching is just avoiding truth.
Absolutely.
Postponing.
It's truly, truly amazing when if you were to visit these numerous spiritual groups and find out how they're hiding from their own awakening. Yeah.
So when I keep reading books and ordering DVDs from Eckhart Tolle or whatever, and it doesn't have a purpose other than...
I wouldn't say it doesn't have a purpose. I recognize that people have a certain energy that's associated with their longing. And until that's fulfilled, they keep running that path. And so some people will spend a whole lifetime reading books thinking that gathering all that information is somehow going to bring them the happiness that they long for. And some people will do it for 2 or 3 years or less or anywhere in between there before they finally go, you know, I'm not going to find it in a book. The book is going to tell me I need to find it. It's going to tell me that there is something to find. It might even tell me how to find it. But it's not the finding. It's only instructions. It's like a big finger that points to something. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, without following, it's completely useless and worthless.
So is that big sausage called enlightenment that people keep chasing?
A sausage?
Yeah, or a carrot.
Is that a Dutch thing?
Yes, or a carrot.
Carrot. Oh, okay.
Maybe
Yeah, I've heard of carrot.
Well, I like meat. So.
Okay. Don't tell the animals that you want to be friendly with.
Okay. But I haven't heard you use the word enlightenment. You're not... is that... Why is that?
I don't know.
But
I use it sometimes.
Mm-hmm. But isn't that the big trap when you get into spirituality, that you think you have to find enlightenment?
No, I think that's a way of bringing a certain clarity into your mind about what it is that you want. I think it happens naturally with those that look at the world, which everybody does, especially when they're young, and they say, something's not right here. And then the word enlightenment begins to have a real meaning or a desire to it. And then, you know, when they begin to look at what that means, then they get all confused because there's all kinds of people saying all kinds of things about what enlightenment is and how do you know if somebody is enlightened. And there's just a lot of concepts and theories about it. And that's where it gets confusing for many people. If you're from the West, then you know you have a tendency to look to Eastern teachings because they've held on to a purity of their teaching for a longer period of time on the planet, so you can find the truth in an easier to understand, not necessarily to accept, but easier to understand method or presentation. Where in the West, you know, you've had since Jesus came, there's a lot of confusion about what he meant, who he was, and I mean, we've seen a lot of wars on this planet over what? Enlightenment? God?
Truth.
You think God, who is love, really wants all these wars? I mean, where do these people get off doing, you know, all this stuff? In the name of God, we're going to have a war.
But isn't it?
Don't think so.
It looks like a translation of outside of what happens in here. I have a war inside of me.
Yeah. But are you going to say it's because God wants war?
Well, you
or are you going to hold something sacred where you still have that as a guiding point for you? See, and that's what I would hope religions would do. I would hope that they would represent the part of you that still longs, you know, and has an intent to bring love to where the darkness has been dominant for so long.
So is asking yourself what would love do in any situation a good help?
Absolutely. I believe that everybody knows what love would do. I recognize, however, that not everybody wants to follow it. But I believe everybody knows exactly what love would do.
And still we don't.
Not everybody chooses to follow.
And sometimes people in these non-duality circles say, well, that's because, you know, opposites need each other. For
I don't teach that.
No.
That's nonsense.
Yeah, okay. It's good you point that out.
That's just my opinion, of course.
Mm-hmm. So, any practices you perform here with the people who live with you? Meditation, yoga?
Under the term meditation, we don't meditate.
But eating with each other in silence, is that a form of meditation?
No, I don't tell them they have to be silent. They wouldn't listen to me anyway.
No? So, you're not a real strict teacher with the finger. Watch out. Very loving teacher. I don't know, I should ask the people.
Yeah, you should ask them.
Yeah.
I consider myself loving, if that's what you're asking. Does it come across the way people think love should look? Probably not. Because ignorant people don't know what love should look like. Not until they begin to practice it and remember, and it comes alive again.
To me, you look like a loving grandfather who has all his family.
Do I look that old now?
No, has all his family with him in the big house and with the beautiful garden and swimming pool, and they have a great time together.
Yeah, that's a nice idea. But it's not quite like that. This particular place was brought together under what I would consider a single idea that Suzanne and I both received when we were just little kids. And that is that it's possible on this planet to have a place in time that is totally and only dedicated to healing. And that it could be, can I use the word staffed? That the people supporting it could experience so much love that anybody can just walk in here and be healed. And that if they were not willing to let go of their thoughts that would deny the healing, they wouldn't be able to remain. That there would be that much love, that much purity. That's the idea that we have when we came to put this together. And now we've asked people if that idea is something you're interested in, then, you know, come and take part in this as much as you want to. And those that have come, they have to undergo their transformation to reach the point where that purity is able to function so that people can walk in here and be healed. So it's nice when someone comes in and they say, I really feel the love, because that's what our goal is, but it needs to be much more pure than it is now. We need people to come here and give and give and give and give their love so that we can get so bright that, I mean, I would just love to see people be able to come in here and just literally just walk past that curtain over there and just one of two things. Either go, no, I'm not, no, or they go, thank you very much. And whatever was wrong, I don't care if it's cancer or whatever it is, it's just healed because there's so much love that there's no need for any of that demonstration any longer of bodies and minds being ill.
And so you
that's really what's going on here. It's not a grandfather and grandmother and a family. It's not really like that. It's actually not earthly in that sense, but it's for an earthly purpose. So it's very practical because the health of people's bodies is very practical if they're going to carry the message of spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So we're very much connected with the world. We're not astral at all. And at the same point, we embrace the teaching that is outside of time and space, or pure non-duality.
Mm-hmm. So people watching this and who want to join or want to taste that love, what can they do? Can they have to call, mail, or
Just show up at the door. It's fine. Well, we do programs. We do at least one program every month. Anybody can come to a program, and we have an office here that's staffed, and they can call and find out, or email.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's books, CDs.
yeah, we have all kinds of normal. We function normal.
But just listening to a CD or DVD, has it the same depth as visiting this place?
That depends on the one who's listening. Truth is true and nothing else is true. And if truth is making it onto those CDs or videos or whatever, it can have enough impact for anybody to awaken just by listening or watching.
So let's a stupid question I'm going to ask, but I'm still going to ask it. There's only one version of truth.
Yes.
But still, out there, there's thousands of versions of truth. Is it all pointing to the same truth, or is it also a lot of rubbish?
There are numerous ways, but there's only one truth. And all the ways, if they are valid, lead to the truth. And eventually, no matter how deep you go down into the darkness, it's going to turn around at some point and head to the truth, because the destiny of man is to return to what has always been.
And that is the same for everyone?
It's an illusion. All illusions end.
Mm-hmm.
They all have endings. The only thing that doesn't have an ending is eternal. Truth is eternal. So your story of being in time has to have an ending, and it has to end in the eternal. So all paths have to lead to the eternal, just as some are longer than others.
Mm-hmm. It seems unnecessary, all those long paths.
Well, that shows a certain maturity that you have to say that, because many people don't see that.
So anything you want to ask me?
Yeah, when are you going to wake up?
Oh, well, who knows?
You do.
I know.
You're in charge of time.
Well, when the excuses stop.
Yeah, but that's a choice.
Stop making excuses.
Yeah, that's a choice. You can make that choice.
Well, I still, yeah, you know, it's the fear of not knowing what's next. I think it's losing control, even if I don't have control right now. But
Well, who has control right now?
well, I think I'm in control.
Yeah, but you just said even if I'm not in control. I'm asking you, who is in control?
Well, the one.
Well, okay, well then why be afraid of the one then if the one's already in control? It can't get worse than this, can it? Sickness, pain, death, murders going on, wars, famine, nuclear weapons, nuclear plants blowing up like in Japan. It's just about to go into the ocean now, and that's going to be terrible. So it can't get worse, can it?
Yeah.
Bigger wars, maybe. But who's in charge?
Well, I could say if God is love and God is one, then God is also war, fear, killing. Or isn't that so? Is that not part of the wholeness and the illusion?
No, that's part of the illusion. The illusion is not part of reality. It's part of the illusion.
And I could say, if it's all an illusion, why bother?
Because you're not aware of what is real. And that's a bother to you, because you're going to die if you don't get it sorted out. right?
Well.
I mean, isn't that your destiny unless it's changed?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that what all the humans say here? We all have the same destiny.
Yeah.
But not everybody has died.
So when I don't die, I wasn't born then also.
You'll find that out when you don't die. Yes, that's true. That's a relief.
Yeah. So one more question about love.
Well, yeah, but you didn't answer my question.
Okay, let's go back. When am I willing to
Wake up.
And you say I already know when.
Yeah, I say that you're in charge of when. You decide when. That's right. And if you tell me 100 years from now, I would say, well, if you decided 100 years, can you change your mind about that? And then you would say,
well, let's make it 50.
Okay, let's say 50. So you make it 50 years from now, and that was your decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
So can you change that decision?
Well, I guess so. Yeah.
You can. So you can make it whenever you want.
Yeah.
And time is pain and suffering and dying. So how much shorter than 50 years would you like to make it?
Well, let's make it 10 seconds then.
See? Okay. This is why I teach what I teach. I do everything I can to help people relieve the need within themselves for more time, because that time is going to be pain and suffering.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't make them willing. They have to show up with that.
And how do you taste if someone's willing or not? Do you show people the door? You say, well, come back in 10 years, or...
I tell them, as long as they're not disrupting things here, they're completely welcome to be here and undergo their transformation. But if they've come to disrupt things, then they have the whole rest of the world where they can do that.
Yeah.
We have a different goal here, a different purpose.
And that goal is awakening to love.
It's providing a place where there's enough perfection that everyone or anyone could come and be healed instantaneously.
You say
instantaneously.
Immediately.
Immediately.
So that implies without
time.
But also any practices.
That's right. All you'd have to have is willingness to let go of what you believe in that is causing you your pain and suffering and sicknesses. Your willingness to die. You have to give that up.
And that willingness, can that grow? Or is that just something you have or you don't have?
If you have time, it can grow.
If you have time staying here, or...
Just time. Growing needs time.
Mm-hmm.
Reality doesn't have time in it. So who's in charge of time again?
The clock.
Yeah, who's in charge of that?
The one, I guess.
You.
Me.
You are. You have the choice. You choose when you're going to wake up. You choose to change your mind. You're in charge of time. Isn't that exciting?
Yeah, it sounds great.
So when, again, 50 years, is that what you're stuck on?
Oh, well, we were left with 10 seconds. But 10 seconds had passed again.
Uh-huh.
But can seriously one tell himself what the biggest barrier is to awakening?
There is help.
Help is on its way.
Help has always been only a thought away. The eternal has never left you. And if you turn to the eternal for help, it will help you.
It seems like that this ego thing or this I thing knows better, but still doesn't want to admit to it, or thinks it knows better.
The ego thinks it knows better, but it doesn't know better. It only knows its own enclosed thought system.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't know anything outside of that. It has an idea that there is something out there, but it doesn't know what it is. Just like spirit doesn't know the ego because the ego doesn't exist, has no existence, it's not a part of reality. And spirit only knows reality. So they don't know each other. The mind is the one that listens to each of them.
The angel and the devil on the shoulder? Or?
Well, yeah, kind of. You could put it that way if you want to, but only one speaks the truth.
And you can choose following truth or not truth.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
In these Advaita circles, they sometimes talk about Maya, huh? the big.
That's illusion. Yeah.
Yeah, the illusion maker, which makes me believe that all this is real. So.
I don't talk that way.
No. Just not something that.
What I say is that there's a belief in the availability of that.
A belief in the availability of
the illusion, of Maya, of finding value. You know, it's what Buddha called, ignorance. You can choose ignorance if you want to, but you can't make your ignorance reality. Only the source of reality has the ability to make reality or create reality. But you can make up any story you want.
It's still
Story.
illusion. Illusion.
Yeah, it's still a story.
Yeah.
One of the differences between the way Suzanne and I teach and the way that we hear other people teach is that a lot of people who are supposed to have a grasp of what's going on, they talk about, like they use the term lila, right? Like a play, and it's God's play.
Of the gunas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is where we have a fast divergence from the Eastern teachings, because that's not the way that we experience it. We do experience that there's a play going on, but the play is the illusion. It's as if this was real, as an option. But it's not made up by God, because that would make a cruel God. It wouldn't be a loving God that would make his children suffer, or would create something that has to evolve. How could something perfect already create something that has to evolve? The only person that would come up with that kind of a concept is one that doesn't want to accept that eternal is going to be eternal, that perfect is going to be perfect, and creation is always going to be perfectly created. So we don't have anything to do with those kinds of ideas.
No. Yeah, sometimes you hear about God was laying in his on his mattress, bored as hell, and thought, well, let's create this world to play with myself.
Yeah, and his wife burnt the toast, and he was having a bad day. So he created humans.
Okay, some final words. I'm just recapitulating.
You're done already?
Well, no, we can talk on for hours, but I hear some people yawning, so
they're not important.
Okay. I could say when I'm here, I think if I was here for a week, I can get used to the idea of everything we just talked about. But the excuse is always you get out in the world, and then you meet a lot of people who tell, well, those people are crazy, and this is important, you have to pay this bill, and you have to get... Yeah. Okay, and then I start believing that again.
Yeah, but this is not a charge?
Well, it's me conforming to...
No, who's in charge?
Who's in charge of what?
Yeah, everything. Everything that's real, who's in charge?
You're saying I'm letting... I'm not in charge.
Of course you're not. But you're trying to be. And you're trying to let other people be in charge in the areas where you don't want to be. But what you really don't want to do is let your creator be in charge, because then you'd have to really change. And that's what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. If you come here, you have to realize that you're surrendering, or you're letting go of the need to control the world, mm-hmm. and you surrender into a greater power that is the power of love. And then as you move through this world, you rely upon that power of love to take care of everything. Through you. Through you. So you're still being active. You're still the practical application. Like if you came by somebody who was in a car accident, you wouldn't go, oh, that's his karma. If he lives, he lives. If he dies, he dies. And you'd walk right on by. No, you'd walk over and you'd take off your shirt and you'd put it on the wounds and you'd stop the bleeding, you know, and you'd try to hail somebody down to get, you know, help.
But isn't that
See, we're not Hindu in the idea of like, no, it's his karma. We're not going to get involved.
But isn't that what we would automatically do?
No.
You think people drive by?
I know people drive by. I know people don't want to get involved. I know people on the streets of New York City see people that are living on the streets and they're not helping them. I see people being raped on the streets in New York City, for instance, okay, and no one helps. They don't want to get involved. It's not my problem. It's somebody else's problem. No, it's not. It's not somebody else's problem.
So your problem is my problem also.
Absolutely. Whatever is happening in our single mind, and until we heal that single mind, it's going to keep happening. You know, how is it that you deal with it? You deal with it individually. You take care of what you are aware of, and you extend that. And you take care of it by what? Being a loving being. And then you extend that to everybody that you meet. You help them find where that love is within them. And then it goes from one to one to one to one until there is only one.
Pay it forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I'm an instrument of God.
That's good.
Okay.
Then
so,
don't be an instrument of the world then.
So when I'm an instrument of the world, I'm not an instrument of God.
Absolutely not. Didn't the Bible teach you that? How many masters can you have?
But yeah, I'm told from young age that I have to be an instrument of the society. You know, I have to pay
That's
my
right.
bills. I have to.
That's right.
Go
Who do you think teaches that?
Ego.
Well, who else would teach that nonsense?
But it's like a big ego bubble outside there.
That's right. It is. And that's why, for most people, they can't do this alone. They need assistance. They need a brother. They need somebody who's on that path also, that they can talk back and forth when the weakness is happening. They can talk to somebody else that'll help them through that moment of desperation or whatever it is, doubts, whatever it is. That's how it's showing up. It's true. You need everybody. Everybody needs help, whether it's from in time or out of time.
It reminds me of something I read once. It said, what did it say again? You're not in the world, but of the world, or is it one way around?
In the world, but not of it.
Yeah. Can you explain that a little more?
Well, you're not from here, but your body is. But you're not your body. So your body's in the world, but you're not of the world.
But the mind can quickly grasp this and say, well, I'm just looking at it all. I think they call it the Advaita shuffle in Advaita circles, that it's all an illusion, it doesn't matter, I don't have to help anybody. I'm just
That's why I was saying what I was saying about karma and car accidents and so on and so forth. No, we're not like that. This is very practical. This is about being loving. It's not about, I'm not going to be involved here. No, I'm fully involved here. We believe the part that we don't embrace from the Eastern is the lack of passion. We don't sit with our fingers, like this, as if that's actually going to, bring us to presence of God. We know that we find the presence of God when we are full of love. So our idea is to be full of love, and you do loving things.
So acting to it.
Absolutely. It has to be practical in that sense.
But is it also that you form a group and you go outside and find homeless people? Or?
You can. Love has to look like something. Has to look like something.
Otherwise?
Well, what would love? What does love do? Does it sit around and wait for the world to fall apart?
So love only exists in the world when it's practiced.
Love has to look like something. It has to look like something. Love naturally extends itself. God is love. God's called the creator.
Yeah.
So that's what love does. It creates. There's no creation going on in this world because there's nothing eternal here. You're just rearranging molecules. And they call that creating here. Painters, whatever. There's no creating going on here.
So what is going on here?
It's called an illusion.
But still, love demonstrates itself.
That's right. It is anything that does not support the continuation of the illusion.
So those, I don't know if they're real, but let's say they're real flowers over there. They're calling me home. They're telling me.
That's possible. What are you saying that they're saying? You're the one determining that. You can say, lousy flowers, there's other ones I really like. Let me tell you about the ones I really like. Or you can say, wow, you know, everything I'm looking at can inspire me to remember that these are just images and illusion, and what I really want is beyond all of this. It's behind it. The thing that put this there is what is outrageous. The image itself, well, it's a nice image, but it's an image. It's not going to make me wake up. It's not going to make me loving. I've already been made what I am. I've already been created as love itself. All I have to do is not be willing to not be that. And then I will be that. In my own awareness. And then it has to express itself somehow, because love has to look like something. Naturally. There is a natural expression to love. It creates.
And is that always a recognition of that love that you are in?
No, not everyone recognizes it.
But when you love something, you say, I love it. I love those. Yeah,
There's lots of things that can be said. Doesn't mean it's true. There's many misunderstandings where people say things and they have different reasons for saying the things that they say. Not necessarily honesty and truth.
So, demonstrating love, that would be my homework for
Ever.
for forever. Thank you.
Thank you.
Homework forever.
So I hope you got something that...
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
well, then I guess it was worthwhile.
Yeah, it's a nice flow. And, well, you know, these kind of things.
Did you do some research at that trip?
Some Googling. I visited the website and saw the interview with the woman from
Lilian Ferro.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's good stuff, eh?
Yeah.
See, what we teach is not just A Course in Miracles.
Let me. I've still. It's not just a Course in Miracles,
Right.
but that's what the Course points to. Or
The Course in Miracles is a very accurate and very valid path. When I said there's all kinds of paths to the truth or to reality, it's a very accurate and very quick. It's my knowledge is it's the fastest path that anybody can follow to find reality. The only path that would be faster would be is you just had an experience of love one day and went, oh, I see, all of life is only about that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all that you ever needed to hear. And from that moment forward, you were just true to love's presence. But that's what A Course in Miracles is trying to bring you to the point where you'll listen to Spirit tell you that God is love and you are love, and the best path for you in any given moment is to bring love to that moment. And if you're not sure what that would look like, there's Spirit there to help you recognize what it would look like so that you can make the right choices. And right choices meaning love, love's way.
So, yeah, this hot thing called free will, you ever talk about that?
Not often, but sometimes. The mind believes it has free will. I believe that the mind only has the ability to experience what God experiences. It doesn't have a free will to experience something that singularity would not experience. That's why the idea that you can is called an illusion. Because it's impossible. And you think you're experiencing the impossible. You think you've succeeded. That's why it's an illusion.
But that success doesn't last long, because in 2 days, I think...
Just all of time. Not longer than that. So how long does time last for you? And that's what we were looking at. Well, that's up to you. It's your choice. How long do you want to hold ideas in your mind that are illusionary as valuable? That's how long. And that's all that's asked of you, is to let go of what has no value and let it be replaced by what's already there, that is valuable, that has not been valued, and therefore has not been a part of what you're experiencing.
So is there any idea that it's valuable?
There's no part of an illusion that is valuable. The closest you can get is that it has an ending.
Mm-hmm.
Now that would be valuable.
Because?
Because it has an ending.
So
it's the only part that doesn't sustain it,
mm-hmm.
right? It talks about the ending. So anything that would help you end is actually helpful. But it doesn't make it real. It just makes it helpful.
Mm-hmm. But the thing people and I guess, most believe in, that you're an I, that you're an individual with free will and choice, that you're the experiencer of the experience.
And as long as you have that idea, you have to deal with it. See, you will always be an I. But the question is that are you aligning yourself with the I that your Creator created and knows reality and also creates? Or are you believing you are an I that has to die, that's inside of a body?
Mm-hmm.
And that is what at the whim of what's going on in a world that it says is outside of itself. There's lies. All these lies are believed. That's why Buddha calls it ignorance. And then there's the true I, the one that remains always. This is why I ask you the question about, can the whole be whole if there's a part missing?
Mm-hmm. And that part would be me.
Or anybody that thinks they're outside of reality.
Mm-hmm.
And calling their illusion reality. That it's just like you think you're not in reality, so you call your illusion reality because you don't want to be outside of reality. But you think you succeeded because you don't think of yourself as being eternal. Unless you say, yeah, there's a part of me that's eternal, but then there's the other part that dies. And what sense does that make? There's a part of you that dies? And a part that's eternal? What kind of a God does that speak of? So it doesn't make sense to me. I try to be practical.
Oh, you are.
Well, those things don't make sense. A loving God wouldn't do those things that people talk about that God has done here. He creates people so they can learn and wake up. What nonsense. What kind of a God would do that? Here, my beloved child, here, go suffer until you wake up and learn. Wait a minute. You're all knowing and all powerful. Why don't you create me already loving where I don't have to go through any of that stuff? Just tell me what I need to know. You're my God. You're my creator. You're all loving and you know everything. Why would you do that? I mean, who does that make sense to? Well, only a human who wants to forget all that kind of stuff, but still have a God, but make him responsible, or her, or whatever, or it, or whatever they want to call it, you know, for the condition that they find themselves in, rather than taking the responsibility for getting the results of their own thinking, and their own choices, their own beliefs, their own values. And all I'm trying to say is no, I'm willing to take responsibility for the choices that I make. And I also know that I need a lot of help, because I've convinced myself otherwise. And so I started to ask for help. That was the first thing, that was probably the only wise thing I did. I asked for help. And because help is there and loving, you get it. If you stop asking for help, you're in trouble.
You're on your own.
Because that's what you think. Mm-hmm. And if you're on your own, you're separated. And when you're separated,
it's a big universe.
You're supporting the illusion. If you're supporting the illusion, how are you going to wake up from it? You can't support it and wake up from it. You're trying to go in opposite directions at the same time with the same amount of energy. Mm-hmm. And think that somehow you're going to be successful. That's not what you do. You just use up all your energy and die.
It happens a lot.
To everybody that doesn't ascend. Yeah. So the goal that Jesus is suggesting, right, is that you take part in his resurrection. And if there's a single mind, then the resurrection occurred in our single mind, and it belongs to all of us, not some other guy 2,000 years ago. And he says, if you'll join with me in that mind, you will have resurrected already. Now we'll find out where your beliefs are and what you value and what you think is possible and how you're limiting yourself. Or are you opening up and going, wow, if that's possible, then show me the way, because that's pretty outrageous. That's a beautiful offering. Now, are you open to that or not?
I think I am.
Well, look out if you are, because something's going to start happening. I mean, if you're truly, honestly, and sincerely open to resurrection and you receive that help, it's going to bring you into your resurrection.
Is that like a kind of flame which burns out all the crazy ideas?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a fire, and that's why I said our path is a path of passion. It's not one of trying to cool and be, chilled out, so we're so chilled out that there is a quieting of the mind. Mm-hmm. But when you don't do the passion, then you don't have the energy that's required to be the Son of God. Because the Son of God has all of God's power that God has given. And that's very passionate. I mean, creating is passionate. You don't sit in reality and go like, create, oh boy, that's a nice creation. No, it's an extension of yourself. It's a passion play. Not necessarily emotion, other than the emotion of love. But here on Earth, every time we talk about passion, people think about sex, they think about eating a lot of food, they think about war, and then they throw in the idea of love, but their idea of love is fighting with their mates and then loving and making up, and it's just like they're very confused about what passion is. But when passion is put together with the idea of devotion and is turned towards spirit, it's a whole different experience that begins to happen. And that's where, like in places like India or even in Israel, and Jerusalem, where people go into certain states of reverie, altered states, you know, bliss, Satchitanand. Those are transitory states that lead to permanent awakening, or what you would want to call enlightenment, perhaps.
But not this thing, that what's it called again, that popular phrase in India, that state you get in for like...
Nirvana?
No, the other one. Satori.
Satori.
No, there's another one. There's one which people get warned about. Sadhana. No? What's it called again?
Samadhi.
Samadhi. No.
No, samadhi's a good experience. It's a good
Nothing
place.
wrong.
There's nothing wrong with samadhi. If it becomes permanent, you just won't. That's it. You'll leave your body, and then the body will be there. And one of two things happens: either you stay connected with it, and it stays refreshed energetically, or it goes through a death process, and you're finished with it. And that's the thing about samadhi, that most people, because the reason they want to wake up is because they're still in opposition to the world, to pain and suffering. Rather than responsible for it, they're in opposition to it. And so once they hit this state of freedom, they think, oh boy, good, that's what I always wanted. I wanted to be free from that. But it didn't take responsibility for it, so where does it remain? In the mind that is making it, which is the one who is focusing on samadhi, but not the part of it that still maintains the illusion. That's the difficulty that you have with it. But if you approach it in the way that we're talking about, where you take responsibility for it and you heal it because you see through it and recognize it doesn't have value, then you're not fighting against it. You don't have to do anything with it. It's like, if it's not fed, just like an animal or whatever, it'll just disappear because it doesn't have anything to sustain it. That's the pathway that you want to go.
So we're feeding the illusion.
Absolutely. From your own mind. From your connection with your mind, you're using all that power with the beliefs that you as an apparent individual believe in, and you're sustaining it. All the people on this planet are sustaining exactly the condition that this world is in. And that's why the masters come over and over and over again and say, listen, you know, those of you that have had enough of that, there's another way. And then people will go, oh yeah, really? And what's it required? Oh, that's too much of me. Or okay, I'm willing. And there's just that whole range of the way people, you know, decide to respond to it. I mean, look at all the beautiful things that Jesus said and did, and there's still people that have problem with him. 2,000 years later, they still have a problem with this guy that did nothing but bring love, demonstrated resurrection and ascension, and said, listen, you know, if you'll hear what it is that I'm saying, and if you'll follow the things that I say, you'll have an incredible success. And you'll be taken care of. You drink from this well and you will thirst no more, he said. He was a pretty bright guy. I mean, you know, he was a bright light in this world.
I also heard that he wrote the things down in the sand so that people couldn't remember.
Yeah, then he...
Yeah. Isn't the trap that people start writing it down a couple of years later and then make it into a belief system? Or
if there's someone who wants to sustain this world, they will find ways to do that. There's no doubt about that.
Maybe also with the words you speak.
Who knows? In my mind, there's not going to be a future. I'm going to take it all with me.
I know a Dutch teacher, Alexander Smith, like 15, 20 years ago, that he didn't want his talks recorded. Throw it away. People are going to make a belief system out of it.
Well, there's always a possibility that this world will misuse everything and every attempt that the light makes. To expect it to do anything different than that, I don't think that you understand very well. That doesn't mean I wouldn't leave in this world the light that the world needs, because it might be abused. Well, if one person, and this is Buddha once again, right? If one person could find value in what I'm doing, I would do it. One person is worth it. if one of these guys undergo an awakening because of what Suzanne and I have done, it's worth it. I'm planning on more than one. But if only one makes it, I would be totally satisfied, kind of. I really want more.
So no football stadiums for you?
Oh yeah, I like football. That's good.
Yeah, but you talking.
Oh, me talking at a football
Yeah.
stadium. I would do it if people wanted me, but I don't think people want me. I don't think there's many people that want to hear this. I think this message is still early in time. I don't see thousands and thousands of people knocking on the doors of those that teach this message. Not that there's a lot of them that do, but I don't see them knocking on the doors. And I find the teachers that are really popular tend not to teach the pure non-duality. They tend to teach to where people want, to the level where people are accepting a spiritual teaching. But when you go to the full Monty, pure non-duality, it takes a really done person. I mean, done.
With done, you mean?
Done with the world. To a high degree. You really have to be not looking for a lot of pleasure in the world any longer.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean I don't enjoy cars. I don't enjoy whatever a nicely cooked meal. I can enjoy anything, but it's not because the joy is in the images. It's because I'm full of joy.
Hmm.
And that's the difference that people need to make. That's a shift that they need to make.
But can the world bring you joy, or do you bring joy into the world?
No, I bring joy to wherever I am. I don't look to the world to make me happy. I don't have a sadness that the world can take care of.
Hmm.
The closest I get to sadness is seeing my brothers still willing to hurt one another.
Some teachers say, well, the world isn't there to make you happy. It is there to irritate and suffer you, so you can, get the other way.
And I'm trying to change that. I understand that teaching, and I'm trying to change that. It's like, what I've been teaching people is look at, up until now, actually up until Jesus came, which I still call now because they still don't kind of grasp what it was that he was teaching. Everybody believed that the way to learn was through pain and suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And we're trying to teach, no, there's another way you can learn. You can learn through love. When they learn through pain and suffering, what they learn is that love is what they want. Well, why don't you just learn through love? Instead of choosing pain and suffering to learn about love, learn about love, and then you'll know you don't want pain and suffering. So I understand what you're saying. I don't teach it that way though, because I see it differently.